Hello, everybody, and welcome along to a 6-goal extravaganza. Unfortunately, 4 of them were for Nottingham Forest and 2 of them were for Ipswich Town. This is Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Dave, I wonder if anybody watching live here on YouTube or listening after the fact feels similarly to me in that I don't feel that frustrated anymore. I think we might have reached the point in the season, the position and circumstance in the league table where have I reached acceptance with what is about to happen and stop wrestling with it? I feel strangely calm this week, Dave. Can you relate to that? And is that good, bad, or indifferent?
No, I can relate to that. I think we all three of us pretty much said in the green room pre-prod, didn't we? That I think we all feel the same. All I've got to say is I think I haven't really done this season. I think it's quite fitting that it was against Nottingham Forest. I'll just clear my throat. Whoa, that's crap! Whoa, it's bloody rubbish!
Is that for the whole season, Dave?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can say it now. I think we say it. We can say it now. But yeah, I get where you're coming from, Ben. I think we're all a bit okay. You know, enough is enough. As Joe just said, stick a full Guinness. We're done. Right. Let's just
there you
try.
Go. Look, Mark says there, Dave. We won the second half.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, we did. Yeah, let's just try and, as someone said last week, I think bloody a few noses before the end of the season and finish it with some respectability.
Yeah, Joe, I don't want to get into 9 games of self-deprecating, piss-taking stuff here on the pod, but are you feeling like a sense of calm of, okay, we kind of know we're not going to be going into a Brian Robson at West Brom last few games, and you can almost be very clear about the next 14 months, really, can't you?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think last week I was sort of so important. It's like we just got to make sure we stay above Leicester because that's the key thing, to stay above them, because if anything ridiculous does happen to Man City, we want to be in position to take advantage of it. And even now, I just think I want to finish above Leicester for pride, but I don't really want to have another year in the Premier League next season because it's just so dull, isn't it? Losing every week. And it's like, it would actually be nice to go back to winning a few games next year. Obviously, I want us to do as well as we can over the last few weeks. I'm desperate that we do finish above Leicester because I think we have been a lot better than Leicester and a lot better than Southampton this year. And I think it will show that we were probably the weakest of the 3 teams that came up squad-wise. If you looked at a lot of all the underlying numbers and everything like that, it very much was we were, in a way, the year before in League One, we were a better team than Plymouth, but they managed to finish above us in the league. I think the other 3 around us, Leeds, Leicester and Southampton, were probably better than us on their day, and maybe we were the side that needed everything to go our way to get the promotion last season. And I think we've done that. And I think we've shown that we have progressed past Southampton, Leicester, which is no mean feat. I know it sounds sort of like you're clutching at straws, but I think it's sort of no mean feat.
8 and 11 years consecutive in the Premier
League. And Leicester won the title and the FA Cup in that time and bid in Europe sort of 5 seasons in that time as well. So I think for us to get above those is a big thing, but obviously it's nowhere near enough, and we've fallen a long way short. It's only really Wolves having a terrible start to the season that has kept us almost interested up until this point, because had they started the season with this guy, it would be this Vitor Pereira and not the sort of all the goings on that they had throughout the start of the season. They'd probably be up with West Ham on 34 points now, and would be, even if we had the 7-8 extra points we deserved, we'd still be a mile off them.
Yeah, Dave, is it a sense that the league table now allows you? It gives you a certain amount of clarity, doesn't it, on where we lie? I certainly have an understanding of the chasms and the hierarchy and the distribution issues, which we've talked about plenty. But it also allows you to look at big picture. If you said, regardless of the Premier League, we'd be going into season, what is it, number 3 full season under game changer, and we're going to have a parachute payment, a squad full of stars, and the ground is Premier League ready. You can almost look at it kind of in that way now, can't you?
Of course, I think you have to. You do. I know we keep, everyone keeps banging on about it. Look at the journey we've been on. Look at where we've come from. I think, of course, you have to take that into account. It's been incredible, and we've just, unfortunately, with a combination, I think, of certainly some bad luck and some injuries. Not totally, because quite a few of the games have been totally outplayed, irrespective of that. It's just not fallen our way. Joe said before in previous weeks, really for us to have had a chance, everything pretty much would have had to fallen in place, and it just hasn't. And we've just been short. It just hasn't been enough. And I get where Joe's coming from. The championship. I'm kind of now we're almost resigned.
You're excited, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so, because it's just crazy. It's mad, isn't it? It's great, the Premier League is just predictable, isn't it? It's predictable.
Well, there you go. Is that the season done? Do we need to do the pod for the next nine games?
We'll see you in August.
Yeah, right. Welcome everybody to Blue Monday and Ipswich Town podcast. Let us know if you feel differently in the comments, but it seems across the fan base a bit of a kind of wash of acceptance now. I know we kind of, it's a little bit ham-fisted using the 5 stages of grief or whatever they are, because that's obviously this is football, it's not grief, but you do reach that bargaining and then into acceptance, which is where we are right now. We are talking Ipswich Town 2, Nottingham Forest 4. If you're here live on YouTube, you're as much as a glutton for punishment as it is we are, and we love you. And get your comments in and get your thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed and all of that good stuff, make sure you have. If you're watching after the fact, you're probably the smart ones now, just leaving it a little bit of time. Remember, you've got an international break, so you might want to drip this one over 3 or 4 dog walks or gym sessions or however you listen. But we really, really appreciate all of you. I have delayed long enough, Joe. I've got good at that this season, delaying actually talking about the game. It is Ipswich versus Nottingham Forest. And Nottingham Forest just feels so significant now, Joe, don't they? Because they're the team that's done the promotion from nowhere under Steve Cooper, shown everyone that maybe you might have to breach the rules to actually make a difference in, the sort of post, where are we, like 21, 22 landscape. You can bring up Brentford and Bournemouth all you like, but the 17 teams being locked down and the continual increase of the chasm makes a difference. And here they are, 3rd in the league and looking pretty good for it, Joe. Just talk about the significance of Forest before we get into the game.
Well, I think you can go back even further, can't you? It's sort of the side that we had all those battles with at the end of the 70s and the early 80s, a sort of provincial team under a genius manager in Brian Clough, where we had the genius manager of Sir Bobby Robson, who I'm sure had a good day up there today looking down at the Carabao Cup final. And we sort of gone through the same stage. We were both in the Premier League at the start and then sort of dropped out. And we came back for 2 years there, but I don't think Forest have been back. I think they went down, came back up once and there. But sort of probably the biggest clubs, probably us and Sheffield Wednesday, have been the biggest clubs with a huge, long, but with a long, like 20-year absence from the Premier League,
right? Where
they'd had that, and they've come back, and they threw the absolute kitchen sink and more at it in that first season, and made some good bits of recruitment, made some terrible bits of recruitment, but they did what they needed to do, and they stayed up in the first year. But when you look at the players they signed there, I looked at it today, and the only 2 that started the game yesterday were Nico Williams, who they signed for 17 million, and Morgan Gibbs-White, who they signed for 25 plus rising to 40. And you think that they're probably 2 signings that we would have made. They're probably the 2 that are most like what we've done in the window this summer.
On Gibbs-White, sorry to interrupt you, mate. That final payment might be about to be made because he's been called up to the England squad.
Yeah, but he's played in the last ones anyway under Lee Carsey, so he's got.
Oh, he has. Okay,
ready. Yeah, so I managed there, but so they're the sort of signs we'd made. But they, like I said, they signed Lewis O'Brien for £8 million and didn't even register him at the in the next. They signed him in July for £8 million, and come September,
was that not just Mr. Marianakis trolling Huddersfield after the playoff final?
I don't think so. I think they signed Omar Richards as well. I think from Bayern Munich, and he didn't play at all, and he wasn't even registered to play. So I think it's quite dangerous to look at Forest as this is what we should do. This is the way to do it, because it really wasn't the way to do it. It was
a case study, though, isn't it?
It was just
a fascinating one at that.
Yeah, it was just a way they did something and it got it done. But I don't think it would be in any way to follow. But because had they not got over the line, had Southampton not had Gavin Bazzuno, Leeds had Ilan Meslier, and Leicester, I don't know who, Danny Ward in goal for them that season, the year of the 3 terrible goalkeepers at sort of established Premier League clubs, and they went back down. I'd have hated to have thought what state they'd have been
Joe,
in the
as well, that
year.
season, the 3 teams above the dotted line all breached FFP as well.
Yeah, so they got there, but sort of fair play to them. But then you look to see what a couple of years up there has done, and they've obviously got the benefit of sort of being part of a multi-club ownership group of Olympiacos, who are sort of a big European team as well. They've got a lot of European experience under Marinakis, so they're able to not only have that wider recruitment network, but they're also able to just palm players like Josh Bowler off if they sign him and don't want him out there, bring players in and move like that. But they've recruited excellently. They've taken big risks, like someone like Gibbs White was a cheap sale, a cheap buy, but he was probably on 100 grand a week when he left Chelsea. So they were taking a big risk on it, and they did that. Made a managerial change, and they've flown. And it's sort of not to take anything away from where they are now, but I don't think it is one where you could see them as any kind of blueprint for what we'd want to do.
No. Dave, this is the Forest team that Joe very correctly says that all that money in the first window, well, some of it stuck, but not much of it. Sells in goal. Williams and Aina, the fullbacks. A couple of really good centre-backs, Dave. Milenkovic and Murillo. Dominguez, Anderson. Front four, mate. Elanga, Gibbs, White, Hudson-Odoi and Wood.
Just very good. Just very, very effective, very functional. 2 massive, great centre-halves who could also play a bit, really strong through the middle of the team. Gibbs White played a slightly more withdrawn role yesterday. Absolute quality football, a lovely feat.
Really good player.
A really, really super player. One of the best I've seen down there. Well, yeah, it'd be midfield players I've seen down there. Opposition this season. Yeah, it'd be up there. Really, really good. I mean, we'll get onto Elanga, but Hudson-Odoi, who, they got for really not that much in the overall scheme of things. I don't think, obviously, wages, but yeah, I didn't think they paid that too much for him. Elanga was 15 million from Man United, probably. Wood banging in the goals for fun. Just a good, functional team. Really, really good in the transition, and really, 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 defended well when they had to.
We'll stay with you, Dave, for the Ipswich team, and then we'll get Joe's thoughts as well. We kind of mentioned, will McKenna just take this team now and just ride it out for the rest of the season? And here's a start. So Palmer, Davis, O'Shea at right back, Greaves, Wolfenden, Kayust, Phillips, Philogene, Hutchison, and Ciso and Delap.
Yeah. What was it? The only change, I guess, from the previous week, am I right, was Ciso in for
Amari in for Jack Clark.
Amari in for Jack Clark. Of course, Ciso did start, didn't he? Yeah. Not so good yesterday. Certainly first half. Wow. Yeah, I mean, fairly settled back four as it is now. Well, at least it was up till half time. But yeah, just sadly, we'll get onto it, but just sadly found wanting again, unfortunately.
This is the 11 now, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, it feels like that, but maybe with Burgess in for Greaves as it sort of followed on from the rest of the day. But yeah, this does seem like our stronger side. I guess the only one who's likely to come back soon and get back into it is probably Axel Tuanzebe.
Joe, it's going to go a bit mad in the middle of the first half, but talk to me about the first quarter of the game where there aren't 3 goals in 6 minutes.
It was I think they held us at arm's length to a little bit, but they didn't really have many chances. They sort of started quite brightly, got into our box a couple of times, but we defended well. And I thought and Phillips came into the game quite a little bit after that in the middle of the park. And we had a couple of corners. One found Amari on the edge of the box who has got to hit the target from there, sort of has a lot of time and just puts it over the bar where it's a really, really good opportunity. But we weren't moving the ball very well in the attacking third. They really had it locked down at that stage. Streaky's just put there that Philogene was in acres of space a lot of the time and just wasn't getting the ball, and And Ciso was giving the ball away constantly, all half. Every time he had an opportunity to do anything, he was slowing it down, breaking it up for us, passing the ball to the opposition, really putting us in a lot of trouble a few times. But I guess this is a problem. Like when you look at the front four, they're all 22 and under, aren't they? The whole front four, I think. So it's really, really difficult to. They are going to have games where they're inconsistent. So we've really missed having, if you think like Connor Chapman, Sam Smodics, Wes Burns, Keo Ogbene, are four probably most experienced league players there. Not necessarily Premier League, but actually in a league where you're at an age where your performances are less up and down. None of them have been available for huge swathes of the season. And we end up where you've just got a bunch of kids up there really at times. And they are going to be up and down with their form. But yeah, that was definitely a down from Enciso yesterday.
He's definitely right behind Philogene, isn't he, Dave? McKenna. It feels like he really wanted him twice, and he's in and he's staying in, isn't he? Talk to me as well about the first quarter.
Very much so. No, Joe summed it up pretty well, really. Nothing, fairly even. Yeah, they broke into our box a couple of times. I thought we defended it well. Certainly Hudson-Odoi, where I, down my side, sort of landed on the ball 2 or 3 times, but I thought, we did defend it really well. Yeah, Hutchison should have, he's got to make the keeper work with that chance. But no, other than that, really, nothing in the game. Yeah, they had lots of possession, and Gibbs White was landing on the ball, and it was all very nice and lovely. But nothing really in the game. Not really. Well,
here comes something then, Dave. You want to take this first goal from Milenkovic?
Oh man, it's such a poor goal, isn't it? Yeah, no, the ball is. Is it? I can't remember. I think is it corner? It is.
Even before that, Dave. Just to interrupt there, there's a ball over the top which Alex Palmer goes across to clear.
Oh no, Christ!
And he just kicks the ball straight at Jens Kajuste, and it goes off from a corner. And you think, bloody hell!
That's where it comes from.
Giving him a corner out of absolutely nothing.
Corner. The ball's played down the channel. Palmer comes out as he probably has to. Could kick it up in row Z, but tries to sort of keep it in play, and he makes a good connection. Hits our player literally 5 yards in front of Kajuste. Goes out for a corner. They take the corner. He's headed out, I think, to Hudson-Odoi. Defended quite well on the edge of the box. He then sort of clips the ball to the back of the box. I think it's Dominguez who's on his own, just heads it back. But no, it's not going anywhere. Like a looping header on our 6-yard box, and it's just there can't be any communication there at all because Delap, it's just awful, isn't it? Delap just sort of jumps. Is he off balance? I don't know. Like heads it back pretty much into the 6-yard box, and great finish by the old serve centre back. Just chest it down, whack, half volley, bang, roof of net. 1-0 down is such a poor goal. It really, at that stage, really was a poor goal, but it's probably worse to come.
Joe, you see that at all levels of football, don't you? When the first set play gets cleared out and something comes back in, and sides just don't get reorganised, do they?
No, like we had 6 or 7 players around the ball there, and the ball drops to Milenkovic, and despite having sort of 7 players within 4 yards of him, there's not one player within 1 yard of him. So, like I say, he just takes it down and smashes it into the goal, and you think, great finish. But we've had, is it the first header from Greaves? Should that go further out? Should that be headed into the middle of the pitch? They like to try and head them to, so he hasn't headed out right there.
Oh, mistakes always compound, though, Joe.
Yeah, and then you look at the header from Delap, and like I say, Greaves is behind him, and you can see the replay. He doesn't appear to shout, but then if he does shout, well, then would Delap pull out of it at that stage? Is he too committed to do so? But yes, you need someone just to take charge of that, don't you? And we had opportunities to clear that. We weren't beaten by an excellent set piece. We just allowed it in there, and that one and the third goal were ones Kieran McKenna was fuming about post game.
And we said on the show last week, didn't we? Especially against Forest, don't concede the first goal, and for it to be that cheap. Let me stay with you, Joe. I think this is a really good goal by Elanga, this second one. I know Greaves has taken a lot of kind of heat for it, but give me your description and then give me your opinion, and then Dave can follow up.
Well, Hutchinson has a ball. We look like we're about to break, doesn't we? Hutchinson gets the ball in the middle of the park, picks it up. I think Delap wins the ball back. Hutchinson gets it, makes a break. Davis sort of starts bombing past him, but he just loses the ball. I think it's Anderson comes in and nicks it. He did that. Yeah, he did a lot. It's one of those players, and you seem to get them in a lot of Premier League teams. These guys who just go in midfield, just kick and foul and harass people all game, but never get blown up for it. They just seem to be allowed to do it all game. And I watched a Newcastle-Liverpool game earlier, and and sort of Bruno Guimaraes is another of those who just fouls and fouls. Every time he goes near somebody's hands all over him, kicking them, moving out of the way. And Elliot Anderson did that and just bullied us out of the midfield, really. Played very well. It's not a sort of criticism. I thought he was excellent and in the way he did it. And they just moved the ball quickly to Elanga, who's on the halfway line. And it's at this stage, they're leaving their 3 men up there. So it is O'Shea.
Nice and wide as well.
Yeah. It's O'Shea, Wolfenden and Greaves versus Hudson-Odoi, Wood and Elanga. And Elanga just drives forward with the ball and drives and keeps going and gets into the box. And I guess the criticism of Greaves, if you're going to have one, is you've got to try and engage him sort of in slightly higher up and maybe make him beat you there, because effectively he sort of said, come in and take a shot from a difficult angle and I'll back you to miss. And he doesn't miss. He puts it sort of right in that sort of postage stamp in that bottom corner. It's an excellent finish, but I don't think in the Premier League you can say to players, look, have a shot from there, because I think you're in a bad position. I think you'll miss. You've got to try and stop them outside the box. You've got to push them back 5-6 yards further. And if they then find a way to beat you or find a pass that comes inside you, then fair enough, that happens. But I don't think you can, especially Elanga on that side, Hudson-Odoi on the other side, you can't say come into the box and drive there and have a shot from sort of 14, 15 yards, because they will find those bottom corners because they've done it all season.
Is this a ridiculous thing to say, Joe, before you come in, Dave? I think it would have taken a better bit of play by Greaves to stop Elanga than it took Elanga to score. What's your thoughts on that?
In
a really good bit of defence off him outside.
You're not trying to stop him.
You're trying card risk as well, haven't you?
But I think you're just trying to slow him rather than stop him, aren't you? You're just trying to say that he can't just drive into the box at full pelt and open up and have a shot. You've got to try and affect what he's doing. I'm not saying you can just go out there, take the ball off him and roll it up the other end of the pitch, but you've got to try and affect him, and he didn't affect him. Greaves might as well have not been there, if that makes sense. For when he gets the ball, he just runs in a straight line and put to where he wants to put it and puts it in the corner.
What's your take, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing, perhaps Greaves there, perhaps he can almost step across him and just show him outside, just try and show him outside. But look, Elanga, running at him at pace. It's exactly carbon copy goal, his class of Kulichevsky, 3 weeks ago. Carbon copy, steps inside. They're good enough. They're just good enough to find, as Joe said, that bottom corner postage stamp. They're all good enough. And it was a class finish. Yeah, Greaves, possibly could engage him earlier and try and get his body shape in a different body shape and try and show him the line, because I think Wolfenden and O'Shea was back there covering there, but
So I think the Kulichevsky one, that was from like 25 yards. He hits that, doesn't he?
It's
quite a bit further, and I think
perhaps it was.
Sometimes if they score from there, you just say, okay, that is a fantastic goal. Where 15, 16 yards is a bit different, isn't it?
But it's still the thing. They're still using the player as like the sort of like shield, and they to just bend it round. It's an absolute quality thing.
I don't think, Dave, at any point in that run, Elanga is not sprinting. He doesn't slow down and allow Greaves to stop.
I think by that time, Greaves,
I can see both sides. Yeah.
If Greaves steps up, he's just going to knock it past him. But as soon as he moves the ball on his left foot, they're just good enough to do that.
And there's just this must be the massive red card risk in your head when you're left 1v1 outside the box. The dog, so isn't it? There you go. It's kind of a moot point, really, isn't it? Given what's about to happen. Who should we go to? Dave. Oh. Another one for Elanga. This is rubbish, isn't it?
Oh, mate, this reminds me of sort of Tommy Smith. Bless Tommy Smith, loved him, but don't let it bounce.
Against Chris Martin for Derby,
Oh God, I mean, it's just a hoof from Milenkovic from literally on the edge of his box, straight. I mean, the worst thing is straight down the pitch. And Wolfenden just kind of gets caught under the ball, challenging Wood for the ball. I suppose Wood does come a bit deep, so perhaps
just eases him out of it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But then it's just no cover. It's no cover behind. So Greaves. When I played, if you're one centre back, if you're not marking someone else, if you're one centre back challenges for the ball, the other one gets around. Well, he doesn't. He really doesn't. Perhaps he's a bit static. And Elanga's just through on goal. He's just basically through. He's between O'Shea, between Greaves. They can't do anything to
Not only is he through, Dave, he's through with the keeper in a horrible position because he's been stitched up by his centre halves.
Totally. And Elanga, with his other foot this time, right foot, just slides it under the advancing Palmer. It's a terrible goal. It really is, because it's just straight down the middle of the pitch. Yeah.
Are we going to get crap from you, Joe, for that one?
It really was, wasn't it? I think at sort of 2-0, I'm not saying anyone was expecting us to get back into the game because it felt very flat at Portman Road from the kickoff, really. There didn't seem much spirit in the crowd from any direction. They were coming here for a party and to win the game, and they very much got that, where we just were quite subdued as an atmosphere. And at 2-0 at half-time, you can go in and think, look, we need to score the first goal here, and if we do, it's a different game. But very similar to... Was it the Spurs game the other week or the Newcastle game? I can't remember where it went from 2-0 to 3-0 just before half time. And it's like, okay, the micro chance we had in this game is just totally evaporated now. And to do it in such a poor goal, and obviously at half time, Kieran McKenna takes Jacob Greaves off and brings Cameron Burgess on. And I was surprised at that. And I was surprised afterwards when he said it was a tactical change, not a injury one, because there's nothing tactical about taking a left-sided centre-back off to bring on a left-sided centre-back and not changing anything else, is there? That's not tactics, is it? That's just he's had a stinker, so I've dragged him off. And like I didn't think the stinker was anything like the Ben Godfrey game against Tottenham, where he couldn't cope with what was going on there. I thought Greaves has generally been okay. I thought his passing was a lot better in this half, but there's obviously certain things that McKenna wants him to do that he isn't doing, because otherwise he doesn't drag people off, does he? Unless they are having that sort of game, he'd give them another 5-10 minutes at the start of the second half. So it's just a shame, and you worry now. Like Cameron Burgess out of contract in the summer, and he's not played a lot. Is he going to sign a new contract to stay? Are we going to sort of have to sacrifice Burgess now and keep Greaves there to stay in and try and make it work with him, which I think will be the plan, because we go down, isn't it? Because I still think there's a lot of comments about a bad signing and a expensive signing, but I think when we signed Jacob Greaves in the summer, I think that was seen as a real coup, and there was a lot of teams that would have been in for him, and there's a lot of talk that had sort of Jared Branthwaite left Everton. He was the replacement they wanted him, so we were really keen to get that deal done early. And he's still a lovely profile, nice size, good left foot. It's a nice athletic profile, and I guess some of these signings, these sort of 15 millions, they need to be looked at across the course of their 5-year deal, as opposed to just the first season where they're coming into a Premier League team playing with a load of non-experienced Premier League players around them, and some of them have thrived, not enough of them, sadly. And I think he's one that will be better for another season in the Championship in a top team next year.
That's a good point, Dave, there from Gord in the chat. That I know it's our job to literally analyse everything from the long-term view, but it could just have been a rocket for the team. But I do agree with Joe, Dave. The problem I've got with it, and who am I to question Professor McKenna on the right thing to do after what he's done the past couple of seasons, but who's playing 40 games for us in the Championship next season at left centre-back? It's Jacob Greaves, probably, isn't it? So he needs to be looked after and nurtured through. But it might just be a short-term grenade, like the comment was saying, Dave.
And to be fair, yesterday, obviously, first and foremost, he's there as a defender. He's there to defend. But actually, on the ball, I thought it was probably one of his better games. Actually, really look, a lot more composed on the ball. But yeah, he was obviously horribly caught out certainly for the third goal. He wasn't just culpable. I think Wolfen has got to take some blame for that. And and obviously the Elanga goal where he cuts inside. So yeah, it's a tough one, but something had to change. Yeah, it wasn't, as Joe said, I don't think it was a change we were certainly expecting. We thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the one. Maybe it'll go 2 up. Maybe Hurst will come on. It'll go sort of 2 up. But no.
Just quickly, Dave, to Joe's point about 2 goals going to 3 goals here, and I mean this is crazy. I've just got the soccer stats up here. So we have conceded over 2.5 goals. So I'm talking about 3 goals going to 4 goals in 31% of games this season. And we've conceded over 3.5 in 28%. So you would expect there to be a big drop-off there. When we concede 3, we concede 4 minus 3% of the... Do you know what I mean?
One game probably, isn't it, where we've conceded 3?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's a real problem that... To your point about everything having to be online, yes, that's happened a couple of times. But Dave, when it goes loose, doesn't it?
We were, and very loose indeed. Yeah, we were. Yeah. I mean, what was it? 3 in 6 minutes, 3 in 7 minutes. This is no comeback from that. We just looked. I think we did from then until half time. We looked shell shocked. To be fair, I think
the only game we conceded 3 in is a Man United game, isn't it? Every other time it's been 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Brentford. Yeah.
So it's 2 going to 4, rather 2 going to 3.
Yeah, like buses, mate. Like buses.
So, I'll come back to Joe then, Dave. A whole slew of subs going through the second half before another bonkers, it's 8 minutes plus stoppage time. But just before we get that little swathe of goals, to use one of your words, Joe, how did the second half play?
It was one of those ones where I think Forest are quite happy to let us have the ball, but we still couldn't really create anything. In that, I think we started the season. We had sort of 2 or 3 corners at the very start of the second half, and it looked like we were going to give it a go. But then I think it did feel like the sort of enthusiasm and the belief just drained out the team. I think in the first half you could see the belief drain out of the team, and I think in the second half even more so when it's like we tried to get that early goal in the second half, it didn't come, and then we went sort of from there, and the game just sort of drifted into nothing really.
Delat missed a really good chance, free header from a corner really early on, like 47 maybe. Really good chance. He just looked like he mistimed it, didn't
he? Should we get into the goals then? Because to be fair, in this game, if we'd in some of our low margin games, Dave, if we had our finishing boots on for these couple of goals, we'd have been all right. Cayuse for 3-1, Dave.
Lovely as the great Barry Davis. Lovely goal.
Lovely goal.
And I thought he was our best player overall yesterday. I actually sat up with a Forest fan yesterday, and he was pretty impressed with Cayuse. I thought, he probably was our best player. Yeah, it's just a lovely goal. Clark, I think Clark gets the ball about 30 yards out. Cayuse sort of showing back to goal, kind of 20 yards out, I guess. Plays it into his feet, and it's an absolute beautiful sort of drag back pirouette type thing. Maneuvers the ball on his right foot, and then just curls it beyond Sells from the edge of the box. At first, when I saw it, I thought, that's a bit weird. It sort of looks like it goes in the middle of the goal, but he doesn't. He does get a bit of curl on it, and I think Sells is just taken by surprise, and it pretty much goes in the top corner. Probably one of the best goals of the season for us so far, I'd say.
Joe, do you want to enjoy this meaningless goal?
Yeah, I'd sort of lost a bit of enthusiasm myself at this point. It wasn't really one that was celebrated wildly, but it was a fantastic goal. Probably
limbs.
No, there was no limbs. There was no scenes. There was no limbs. It was just one of those ones where you watch it back in a few years' time, and you sort of think, well, why was there no celebration after scoring such a fantastic goal? It's one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to Joe's point about Forest being happy without the ball, I just looked it up. They are 20th for possession in the Premier League with under 40. So on average, 3 out of 5 passes in a Nottingham Forest game are not made by Nottingham Forest. So they were very well set up to do that, to your point, Joe. But they're gonna score again, mate. Do you want to take this one, Joe?
Yeah, it's just another. It was almost because they'd held us at arm's length when we got back to 3-1. We tried to push on to get a second goal, and the ball just releases into the midfield. And I think it's Awonyi who's on by this point, and he goes up against Wolfenden and wins the ball, and they just have players fly past him. And I think the ball drops to Anderson, who picks out a brilliant ball first time to Gibbs White, and it's Gibbs White and I can't remember his name, the guy who scores it.
Jota Silva.
Yeah, the team Jack Grealish. They sort of fly up there. And
Timu Pukki, good mention for him as well.
Morgan Gibbs White gets away, and I think we're talking in the Telegram this morning about Jack, and Jack was saying in there about when Jack Clark got away last week against Crystal Palace and plays the ball to Encisa, and he just plays it a yard behind him, and it just slows it down. It's like, if this was him, would they do that same pass, or would they just totally take advantage of it? And Morgan Gibbs White just plays the pass perfectly into the run of Jota, who doesn't even break stride, does he? And he just slots it in. Palmer does get a bit of contact to it, but it goes in the back of the goal, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's it. We were just put back into our place there at 4-1. The 3-goal lead was restored straight away.
Would you care to add to that, David, or would you like to talk about a towering header By
This
George
is, I mean,
Hurst.
this is another really good goal. And Hurst, I think he came on about 79, 80 minutes, I think, for Delap.
James Scowcroft stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, he did look. His touch was good. Just before this goal, though, there was a ball played into the box and he just couldn't get it under. And you think, oh, God's sake. But this is good. And for once, it's a good bit of sort of fairly direct play. I think Hutchinson gets a ball wide right, turns, sort of checks back, plays it to O'Shea, gets it out of his feet. Really good ball in the box, one of those sort of swerve with a bit of pace, and it's a great header. Hurst is sort of
Joe Jordan-esque, giving his Scotland call up.
Classic,
George McHurst.
Absolutely, yeah. Like his dad. I'm sure his dad probably scored a few like this. Absolutely twisted penalty spot, pretty much, and right in the far right corner with it past a despairing dive for himself. No, that was a really good goal, and he did look lively. I mean, the game obviously gone well before that, but I thought, Broadhead, looked quite good. Clark looked quite good when he came on. I know they're coasting perhaps at this stage, but no, it can only be good for Hurst, another goal. So yeah.
If Joe, if George Hurst was fit for 35 starts in a decent championship team, is he? I know it's strange to kind of talk about a breakout season for a guy who got promoted to the Premier League, but how many goals do you think he could score in a decent championship?
How many did Mitrovic get?
43.
Maybe not quite that many. But no. I think he's going to be excellent for us. And I think his injury's been a real blow for us, both at the very start of the season and when he sort of broke into. Because you think it wasn't that long ago when Liam Delap was in fine form that we went away to Brentford and George Hurst got the nod to start up front and Delap was on the bench, and they both scored that day. But then Hurst picked up the other injury at Tottenham and missed a lot of games from there. But yeah, he's been excellent. I think he's got, across all competitions this year, he's only played 443 minutes of football and has scored 4 goals. He scored in both the cup games against Coventry and Forest, scored against Brentford and scored again yesterday. And I think he's a really, really good player. And I think it's a real shame that he hasn't had the opportunities in the Premier League that maybe he would have deserved. And that's purely down to fitness. It's fantastic. He's got his Scotland call up. I think he's really deserving of that. Hopefully he can go away there and start his international career off well. But he's a really, really good player, and one that sort of looking forward to see how he gets on next year, and just hoping he can get over his injury issues. But sort of back to the point that Paul just made there about putting the ball in the box. How many times,
get it in there, Dave.
At Old Trafford, how many times at Old Trafford did we have that ball in that zone where O'Shea put the crossing from? Even when you go back to
what would Mark Venus do, Joe?
When we played at the Emirates in sort of at the end of December, even then we had a lot of balls in those positions, and we just didn't chuck the ball in the box.
Stick it in the box, Joe.
Get it in there. And
get it in the mixer.
Mark Venus, one of the 3 new entrants to the Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame with David Johnson. Check out previous interviews with Blue Monday with him.
And Richard Naylor.
And Richard Naylor.
Yeah.
What would John McGreal will do, Dave? Get it in the bloody box.
Oh, now you're talking. It was. I've got to say, that's a pretty good thing. It was a McGreal-esque type cross from which we used to see. Just gets it out of his feet, whips it in. It was. As someone said in the chat, we won the second half 2-1. Let's take some positives. Fact. It's so facto. But it was. It was a bit meh, wasn't it? After the 3 goals in 6 minutes, game's done, and it's been, crowd pretty good. I thought Joe pretty much stayed. Pretty much stayed on side. Good comedy from the Forest, obviously. As I think Rich said earlier on, now Gibbs White's is in England's squad because Palmer's got an injury. But they were Thomas Tuchel was getting stick even for his first England game from the Forest fans. That was quite amusing.
Well, England play Senegal at the City Ground in a few weeks, or in the next international.
Oh, is that program. Right? They're actually playing at the City.
They're playing at the City Ground there.
But, I didn't know that.
Start Gibbs White then, yeah.
As Gibbs White was going off at the end, they were sort of singing England's number 10, England's number 10. When he turned around and gave it the sort of big, very like the emoji, like the confused, like hands up like that. And that picture is actually in the Athletical article talking about the game. That exact picture of where they caught him doing that. But he has now been called up to the squad. But We'll see. But it's just a shame Liam Delap didn't get the call up. I think we were all hoping that he would do, but he didn't get that call up.
I mean, I think
to bounce around from subject to subject.
Exactly.
Here.
I think I think
Joe, it's a big help at this point in the season.
I think what
mate.
we're saying, what we're saying about Hurst and Delap, Hurst obviously 4 years older, obviously, and just looks at it as a more rounded striker. Not obviously he's not. He won't have the ceiling that Delap's got. He could go, and we think he will go to the very, very top. But for us, I think at this stage, he's just a bit more rounded, and just obviously he's had the benefit of the 2 previous seasons with us. But yeah, Delap must be infuriating to play with. Crikey, to be fair, as was in CISO yesterday, he must have been. But yeah, sometimes you watch Delap and he's sort of head down, as Joe said, head down battering ram. You think, get your head up. But yeah, so let's hope Hurst stays fit and can contribute, a lot more towards the end of the season.
Just quickly on emojis, because Joe mentioned it, just a shout out to all the parents who, like me, know every word of the Pitbull and Christina Aguilera song from the Emoji movie that Enid played on repeat in a car journey. It's only like 3 minutes long as well. Yeah, that was a tough one. Dave, final summings up from you, matey. Ipswich 2, Forest 4.
Deja vu all over again. Yeah, just again, different. I say deja vu, different to the Spurs game. Spurs game is perhaps, I think, even more frustrating.
Spread of goals.
Yes, well, it was, but even more frustrating than yesterday, because the Spurs game, look, as we said, should have been 2-0 up after like 5 minutes. Different, 2 decent chances, different game. Yesterday, nothing in the game for half an hour, but yeah, I mean, 3 goals in 6 minutes. Turn the lights out.
Joe, final summons up from you, and then we will not mention this again. Well done, Forest, by the way.
Yeah, I think there was sort of 2 points. First one is that we mentioned, it was mentioned in the Telegram again this morning, how I think it's only because we're in such a bad position at the moment that we needed that win yesterday. That had that been any normal game where 18th place in the table plays 3rd place and they come in and just turn you over 4-2, it's not really something that gets mentioned. But because we were so desperate for this win, we'd sort of managed to contort ourselves into a way to think that we could actually win this game. When actually, when you look at the form book, it wasn't going to happen, and it didn't. But I think it was just disappointing that we're generally very competitive in most games, and it hasn't been enough. But
true, yeah,
we can't afford to give goals away like we did yesterday, and it's really, really frustrating to see. And I think the problem is we're not quite at the level, so we're having to play every game at sort of like 100% energy in every single part of every game, that as soon as it lets up for a little bit, or we tire, or we need to make subs, and the quality drops. And this is probably why we're making subs later on in the games, because we feel it's such a drop from sort of A to B when we make the subs, that we're just not quite there, not quite where we need to be. And it's just that it's a tightrope walk for us, and we're just falling off it too often at the moment.
Only team in the 92 without a win in 2025. Here's a word from our sponsors over at Atwell's.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thanks to the fine people at Atwells for their support of the podcast, and One Stop badges. Also, you can grab your discount over at One Stop from the description in the YouTube video of this very, very show. Go for it, guys. Now, get your questions in via the comments. Stick a Q before and a question mark afterwards. We've actually gone long on that game. I was worried we weren't going to have anything to talk about, but 6 goals helps out with that. So get your questions in and we'll put them to Dave and Joe after we've had a look at the results on the table. And the ITFC women beat Gwalia 2-0 in Wales. Both goals from Sophie Peskett. Town return to action at Portman Road next Sunday against Plymouth. Rich will be across that with plenty of build-up. And we should be speaking to one or more players ahead of that one. There's probably going to be a little dip in schedule. We might take a little bit of a break. We'll do a little pre-match for the ladies' game on Thursday, and then maybe back to normal. I don't know what we're going to do next Sunday. You let us know what you want over on the socials, over on Twitter and here right now, and YouTube generally. What do you want to see next week? We can do a full Q&A if the guys are up for it, but we'll come up with something because we've done 900 shows and I frankly don't know what else to do on a Sunday night. I'm sure you two guys are the same. Here is, if you give an SHIT, the Premier League Roundup in association with Innovation Labs. Okay, let's play our favourite game of Don't Care Irrelevant, which is getting more. Well done, Newcastle, by the way, who've won their first major trophy in 300 years today, beating Liverpool in the League Cup final. But, gentlemen, in the Premier League, it was Everton 1, West Ham 1, Man City 2, Brighton 2, and the one hope, which wasn't really a great hope, Southampton 1, Wolves 2. As expected, Wolves got another win to move to. I mean, we've discussed this before. It's not even a respectable total. It's a bad total, but it's a total that's 9 points more than our total. Bournemouth 1, Brentford 2, whatever. Arsenal 1, Chelsea 0. Don't care. Fulham 2, Spurs 0. Fine, whatever. And it's Leicester, Man United. It's 2-0 at the moment. Let me see what the...
I think it's 3.
3-0. It says 90 on my FootMob app here.
Bruno just scored.
Again, another cringeworthy week of 3 defeats for the ex-EFL teams. Shall we just have a look at the table rather than going through this in infinite detail? Southampton, 9 points. Dear God. Leicester and Ipswich, 17 from, well, it'll be 29 for Leicester in the next few minutes at time of recording. They could still score 3 goals in 30 seconds. You never know. Go on, Leicester. You can do it. Wolves are now on 26 points. So they are nearing the point per game, and, which would be 38 total. So, yeah, Joe, this is an absolutely bloody yawning gap developing now, mate.
I think it's more than that. It's a chasm now, isn't it? There is no shutting this. Like I say, Wolves are going to end up with 40 points, and we're not going to get anywhere close to that.
Someone got like a circular saw behind them in their house.
My wife is hoovering outside the door.
Why is she hoovering outside the door? That's David Diamond.
It's all she does.
Dear. Okay.
Sort of 20. We're going to be lucky to get like 25 points, aren't we? Wolves
are
currently on 26.
The points up at the moment, Joe, aren't they?
Yeah, Wolves are currently on 26.
We're in a bit of a vacuum.
I don't think we're going to get. I don't think we'll get to 26 by the end of the season.
Rubbish.
We really suck, don't we?
It's a point per game to get to 26 for us now, just to get to where Wolves are currently.
Yeah. Dave, your thoughts?
Well, nothing really much to add to that. Only I suppose Leicester will now go to minus 40. So in that scramble to finish 18th, that's another, I suppose, positive thing for us. But nothing really to add. I agree with Joe. I think Wolves are probably going to get 40. Might be a bit of a push, but they're going to finish. They're going to finish mid-30s, aren't they? Sure.
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah. Right. Should we go to some questions, gentlemen? And my challenge to the Blue Monday chat is give us some interesting stuff to talk about for the remaining 9 games with our future looking fairly well set. Joe, from Mark, do you think we should start with Hurst over Delap next game? We need that Delap value as high as possible, though, don't we, Joe?
Yeah, I guess there's one consideration that Delap's on 9 bookings, and I think at 32 that resets. So if we could try and have him coming on for the half hour at the end of games, rather than sort of Hurst getting sort of 15 minutes, give him a bit longer to come on for, he might avoid those bookings and is able to play a part in every game for the season. But I think you definitely want him starting against Wolves, don't you? Maybe you give Hurst a start at Bournemouth, but then Hurst is about to go off on international duty and probably come back cropped from that.
Stop it, Joe. Dave, what do we got for you, mate? Neil asks, we are definitely playing away games with more spirit and intent than home games. Why do we think this is? A little bit more free away from home?
Yeah, maybe it is. I mean, I'm not getting the vibes that there's a lot of angst, particularly coming from the home fans. I don't really think so. But maybe it is. Maybe that's just how how it's sort of set up. Although yesterday, obviously, that's sort of flown in the face of that because we've said how low possession stat Forest are. But yeah, there probably is something. There probably is something in that.
Joe's from Rob. Why are we playing our best centre back at right back and leaving natural right backs out of the team? Does McKenna not trust any of them? We've had this before, haven't we, Joe? If you're versatile, you ain't going to play in your favourite position, are you?
Well, I think the only natural right back is Ben Johnson, isn't he? And he doesn't really seem to suit the hybrid right back, right centre back role that we play with effectively.
Dave from Woody Wood. Is it time to call out McKenna with his rotation, inability to pick a regular team and winning mentality? I mean, in defense of the professor, there's some injury issues. There was one game I remember we did where he made 5 changes and we were all like, was that
I don't think it's been that so many. Certainly since our form's been pretty certainly patchy since the turn. He hasn't won a game since the turn of the year. But I think with perhaps obviously getting some look, clearly now he wants to play Phillips and Kiyust in midfield. Prior to the new year probably. Obviously Phillips was injured. Kiyust has been in that injured. Morsey was playing. Morsey would be almost first pick. So there has been a lot of chop and change, but so much of that has been down to injuries. You just can't legislate for, especially down that right hand side. Shocking.
Joe's from AD. Who would you keep at the club when we go back to the Championship?
Well, I think the majority of them will stay, won't they? You look at the ones who are out of contract, is Burgess and Tuanzebe, and ideally both of them would stay, but I guess it's unlikely. I don't know. I think they're the only 2 senior ones out of contract, and Massimo Luongo, who's probably going to go. And then it's just from that point on, it's who you sell to regain some money. Delap will be one, and then who else you can. But really, we're going to be losing the loan players. I think they'll all go back, and we'll probably be looking to add 6 or 7 again in the summer to try and push us on, and then go from there.
Dave, Streaky, all change for Bournemouth or stay with yesterday's 11? I think he's going to ride out that 11 the entire rest of the season, mate.
I think he might, but I tend to think if that might be a game, as Joe said, given with one eye on the Wolves game, that perhaps he does start with Hurst and Delap gets a good half hour, 20 minutes, half an hour. So that perhaps wouldn't surprise me. But I think the rest of the team. Well, remains to be seen what happens with Burgess and or Greaves. But other than that, I think the rest of the team, if fit, will start that game.
Will we win again this season, Joe? Asked Trevor. Would you like me to sing a bit of You Win Again by the Bee Gees, or do you want to just answer the question? There's no fight and fight.
I think we'll win a couple of games.
He wants to answer the question, Dave.
I think we'll win a couple of games. It's going to be too late to matter, but it's going to be games where probably neither team's got a huge amount to play for, and we're able to get something done.
When we win again, the 3 of us are going to sing You Win Again in 3-part harmony, like the Gibb brothers.
Falsetto.
Do you know what? Annoyingly, this is a bit nerdy. They don't actually sing the lead vocal in falsetto in that song, which is very rare for a Bee Gees song. Okay. The backing vocals are in falsetto.
Who's singing that? Who's singing that? Robin or Barry? Who's singing that bit?
They sing in unison in the chorus. But I think Robin sings most of the...
Yeah.
I'll be following you.
That's the one.
Yeah. Trevor, I'll answer this one. Why did we sign Godfrey and where is he? Ben Godfrey has actually joined a Bee Gees tribute band. He's currently on tour in Australia with them, and he's playing the part of Barry Gibb singing in falsetto. Dave, you've got to take this one, being it's your show. It's a great question, that, by the way. In a rewind.
Well, look, don't forget, we have dwelt a reasonable amount in this season, the 94-95, one or two, a good number of those games.
Would you allow me to ask the question first for the people listening on audio who can't see
Sorry,
it,
I
Dave?
thought you'd asked. I thought you'd ready.
In a rewind show, Dave, in 20 years' time, how will this season be remembered?
As a season of transition, I'd like to think, Ben. There you go.
Transition to bigger things and establishing
better
oneself.
things.
Right, do you want to butter up this Forest fan in the chat, Joe? Do you think Forest will finish in the top 4? Be fun, wouldn't it?
Well, Chelsea looked terrible today, didn't they? So I think that as long as
That's
they can
coming with faint praise, isn't it?
Keep up their form, I think they should stay above Chelsea, shouldn't they? And then it's Man City, I think, will come fourth, and then it's sort of, what is it, Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, Man City, Chelsea at the moment, isn't it? Yeah, Chelsea don't look like they're going to get 7 more points in Man City over the rest of the season.
I know Villa did it last season, but it'd just be great to see a team like that break that top 4 ceiling, wouldn't it? I hope they do.
Richard loves sliding doors, his favourite movie, Dave.
Really?
Is there a bigger sliding doors moment this season than Jack Clark hitting the post at Fulham? We've just beaten Chelsea, haven't we? We haven't been able to go back-to-back wins. And, was it injury time or just before injury time?
Yeah, they went up the other end and a penalty Jimenez, wasn't it? Yeah, we discussed this. We had a bit of a mini team curry last night, and we discussed this very subject, and we all agreed, yes, it was, because as you quite rightly said, would have given us 2 wins on the bounce going into, I think, a cup game. Bristol Rovers was in it, and then with Brighton at home, I think, was the next game. So, with a very good chance, perhaps a slightly different mindset. So, yeah, that was, in hindsight, it was a moment, definitely.
Basically, everything's gone to shit since that.
Everything has absolutely.
Joe's been keeping it together for 56 minutes of this pod. His head's gone now, Dave, hasn't he?
I'm still waiting for Joe to say, look, come on. Yeah, it's a final summing up. Here's the 7 wins in the last 8 games. Come on.
Come on, President Joe. Answer this question from Neil. I was going to say, guys, you're actually doing well at answering in kind of pithy sound bites tonight. I'm enjoying this. Neil, Joe, asks, 4 keepers on the books. Ooh. Who's leaving next season? Good question, Neil.
Well, you'd imagine Slicker, they'll try and get him on loan somewhere because he needs to play some senior football. He's in the full Scotland squad and he's still not playing any senior football at all. So you imagine he'll go somewhere. And I don't really see a way you can carry Palmer, Walton and Muric. So Muric probably seems the most likely to go out. I guess he's probably going to have more suitors than Christian Walton. Where that'll probably be a loan spell. It'll be going abroad. Who knows? But I'd imagine it'll be Muric that goes out.
Yeah.
Dave, in a word, do you think there's any chance that we can sign Caius? Well, don't pour water on it immediately. It's not beyond the realms of a possibility that a year 1 parachute team, having maybe sold a player, signs a midfielder for 10 million quid. But can you persuade him to play in the second tier of English football?
The funds will be there. I mean, as we understood before the start of the season, he was fairly close to going to Brentford, wasn't he? But they didn't apparently take, hindsight, he's missed a few games, hasn't he? They weren't prepared to take a punt given his injury record. But yeah, you can see he's a quality player, and you would think, with all these attributes, there it is, it'd be outstanding in the Championship. So you'd like to think so, but from what we understand, and as someone quite rightly said, Steve's just said there, would a Swedish full international drop to the Championship? Doubtful. But as you quite rightly said, Ben, the funds would be there if necessary to buy him. But it'd be Joe, brilliant. It'd be superb.
Do you want to come on this, Joe? Because that lad Souza for Sheffield United is way too good for the Championship, and he's playing in there, and so is Harmer and Ahmed Hodzic, and we can name players at Burnley, less so Luton as well. But it's not impossible, Joe, is it?
No, I wouldn't say so. It's not one I'd expect to happen because I think he's probably shown about enough that maybe a Wolves or a Brentford or something like that might come in and pick him up and have him as part of a midfield rotation. But I'd like to say I don't think it's beyond the realms of sort of believability that he drops down to play there, because we'd have that 10 million to spend on a player. We can probably pay 40 to 50 grand a week wages even at that level, where no other European leagues outside the sort of top 4 or 5 clubs can pay the sort of money we'd be able to pay even as a parachute team in the Championship. But it's just, is he going to be one that can play Saturday, Tuesday? Because the pace of the games may slow down, but the number really picks up, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, it does. Guys, I hate to say this, but I've actually quite enjoyed the show tonight. Is that a bit perverted, Dave?
I don't think it's perverted in any way at all, Ben. Not at all. No, I've really enjoyed it myself. A bit of therapy on a Sunday evening. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. But what I think I need to hear, and the listeners all need to hear, is a Joe Fairs,
come on, Joe,
President Trump-esque, barnstorming, complete nonsensical reason why we're definitely staying up. Why we've got the best players. I have the best comebacks. We win all the games. Joe,
I honestly, when I was driving, sort of in the week before yesterday's game, I'd talked myself into 4 wins on the bounce before yesterday's game. I sat there thinking, we can do that, and then Bournemouth away. I don't know if they'll fancy it straight off the back of an international break. Then Wolves, we'll just roll them over. And I think the next, I can't remember what the next game was after that. Was it Chelsea away? Was it? I thought maybe we
Hey, Dyer.
Yeah, we can nick a point at Chelsea. So we go from there. But even I've lost the faith on this one now.
No. Oh, damn. Look, guys, we're going to be back after the international break, and there are more games to play, and hopefully there are some wins and some good stuff to talk about. But at the moment, Streaky, we're not down yet. That is an objective fact.
Come on.
And stick with us. Thank you so much for sticking with us through the show tonight, and please do so for the end of the season. And remember, don't lose sight of that big picture. It's been an amazing few years, and if we can get through this remaining, is it 9? No, 9 games remain. I've got a table up in front of me. It's 9. You're hoping it's going to be 7, won't you, Dave? Then we might have some good fun again next season. Once again, you never know. Thank you everybody for watching, for listening. This has been Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast reflecting on Ipswich Town 2, Nottingham Forest.